睛，你会怎么做？他倒是告诉我，我怕听不见。以前期的火把是你式的魔法，慢慢的渲染我的心逐渐。你举起前进更难逃脱，抬头看天空，爱就在飘落。可以是歌手，是作家，写诗在行诗，当然那些爱情小说。雪花让我伴着你左右，爱情在燃烧，看着你火候。你最爱看太阳落下。
Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. In my last video, I had mentioned about what the domain commander was talking to me about, and one of the statements he made, if you recall, was that he would say I shouldn't worry about things because in my future there will be a pleasant surprise. It will be a calm and happy, really nice, pleasant surprise. Now at the time, since I was talking about geopolitics, which seems to be my dominant theme, since anytime you touch on the computer, it's geopolitics and the world's coming to an end. That's what I thought he was talking about. But it wasn't. He was talking about my own personal life. And yeah, of course it came true. The domain commander knows what's going on. And what had happened was I have an ongoing project, a pretty big project. I'm moving a couple of factories to the United States. And one of the key players, the project manager of this particular operation, suddenly went silent. So I'm doing all this prep work, everything's set to go, we've got everything ready to go, we're ready to absolutely launch this project, we're ready to go. And suddenly the project manager doesn't show up for our conference call. And then we don't hear from him. And everything went into a tailspin, and for 6 months we're trying to recover and recoup and get things back together, and then another 3 months or 4 months after that we started without him, hobbling along, and we made other plans and we did things in other ways. And so the pleasant and happy surprise was I had a conference call yesterday, and my client introduced the project manager saying he's back on track and ready to take on. And that is wonderful. It actually made my day. It was indeed a happy and calm and kind event. So what does this tell you? Well, I'll tell you what it tells me. Number one, again, that the domain commander, when he tells me stuff, it's not bullshit. It really happens, and if he's telling me something about the future, it really happens. Number two, I think I need to listen to the domain commander and not so much listen to this news crap, because it's all just irritating as all shit. So I shouldn't really worry about that. Number three, the domain commander's words ring true. Concentrate what's going on intimately in my own reality, and don't worry about these constructed realities that are happening outside of me. And at that's what I'm going to talk about, the nature of our reality. As I've mentioned before, the more and more I use AI image generation tools, the more and more I am convinced that the way the system works to generate images is exactly the same way that our reality works for our individual consciousness. Now, I've read a couple of videos, or watched a couple of videos and read a couple of things regarding frequencies. And yes, it's true, frequencies are the key that makes everything go on. People can't see frequencies, though. You can hear frequencies. If you are adept, you can identify frequencies, but most people can't. I can't. So because of that, it's not particularly useful to me. Though I can see, using frequency as an attribute, how you can see how the building blocks of reality come into play. that's neither here nor there. It doesn't mean shit unless you can use it. I'm still convinced that consciousness, as embedded as it is within this reality, is in full control of that reality. I watched a video on the Mandela effect, and you guys all know about the Mandela effect. And this person is saying, and they have a lot of good stuff there, but they're saying that it's the sole consciousness of everybody, because consciousness is the be-all, according to what they say, that forms the various world lines, and you get to choose one or two, or one of many, and they say these world lines are based on a consensus. And that's only true if everybody else is a consciousness. But I argue that when you're in a reality, you are the consciousness, and everybody else is a shadow consciousness from some other reality. And the mere fact that a lot of our realities seem to coincide is simply because all of us are sharing the same pre-birth world line templates from which to framework upon our imagery, framework upon our experiences. We put frames and we frame everything within those constructs. Have you ever thought what it would be like if you were born a cat? I do. To me, as a cat, I wouldn't be seeing all these great colors, but I would be seeing movement, the slightest movement. I'd be hearing things that I couldn't hear now. And I would have greater perception in dim lit conditions, and I would find eating a mouse or a bird raw delicious. Would I be able to go from a human to a cat? Don't think so. At least not with the knowledge that I'm a human. And in like ways, that's the way our reality works. The same absolute way. You can't go from here to there. So, to me, it's like getting a can, empty can, and you fill it with goop. You know the child goop? You know, as I make this video, it's election day, or the end of election day in the United States, and everybody is all concerned and worried about it. They really are. And, you know, what's going to happen? Trump in office, Harris in office, what's going to happen? And, of course, I asked the domain commander, and he says it doesn't matter. Actually, to be honest with you, the domain commander is very dismissive about this kind of stuff, telling me that all this stuff is part of the background noise that is a part and parcel of our reality, and I should not get involved in it. And even though the background noise, as the domain commander says, involves deaths, people in Gaza, involves war in Ukraine, involves threat of war in Taiwan, involves trade sanctions and all kinds of this and that. The main commander says, as far as my consciousness is concerned, it doesn't involve me. In which case, I have to argue, if my income is derived from trade as a fractional percentage, as a margin, and the trade decreases because of politics in the United States, it does concern me. But yet the domain commander is telling me all that is just noise, doesn't reflect what's really going on, which makes me really wonder, what is really going on then? I mean, if that isn't what's really going on, then what is really going on? And the image I get is that We're all in a construct, sort of like the Matrix, only a lot more sophisticated, with a pre-birth world line template and us in like this sticky goop that alters the world lines through various shifts and consciousness revisions. And other people tell me that it has to do with frequency, and Domain Commander says yes, it does have to do with frequency, but it's more complex than that, and I shouldn't worry too much about it. Something having to do with frequency is just a manifestation of the reality component. It could be particle, it could be wave. It's just a manifestation. And so take it as you will. I'm just telling you what Domain Commander gives me. Okay, so let's go. So let's get down to the bottom line. I'm a practical guy. I asked Domain Commander the basic practical questions. Does affirmation campaigns, as I know them and understand them, do they actually work? And to that, the Domain Commander says yes, absolutely. Okay. So even though I may or may not have the concept of the nature of reality clear in my head and organized properly, the Domain Commander says that my consciousness within this body, reciting or working through affirmation campaigns, is a approved method, not the only method, but an improved method for adapting to this reality, changing the reality to suit my needs, whether it's a physical move such as picking up this air conditioning control, or have affirmations that define the life that I want to have. And therefore, affirmations form what is known as an epic. And I've talked about epics before briefly. Epics in AI, in artificial intelligence, to create a picture or ChatGPT or whatever, they have data sets, huge, enormous data sets. Let's take a picture of a cat. You want the AI to identify whether this picture is a cat or not. So you feed the data sets of all kinds of pictures, dogs, elephants, cats, people, and the ones that are cats, you say this is a cat. And not only that, but you do it for everything. And they're enormous data sets because you're talking about cats and dogs and pencils and pens and buildings and all kinds of things. An entire dictionary with multiple levels of imagery and everything. And then you train that to search out other things and identify them. And then you take that and you train it further. Each training session is known as an epic. Okay. So what you're doing is, when you're running an affirmation campaign, you're running an epic. Now, I mentioned here in an earlier post that affirmation campaign 2.0 is much more elaborate and much more detailed. But when I started working on that, I could see that it didn't really change the process. The process pretty much stayed the same. I mean, some minor changes, but the process stayed the same. Probably kind of confusing for everybody. So basically what I want you all to do, and what Domain Commander says as an advice, as an advisory statement to all of you, is that maintain your epics, your affirmation campaigns. Revise them as time goes on. The key to this is your ability or not to be able to control your reality through thought or action. There is no question that you, as consciousness, who is in control of your physical body, can do so. Therefore, you run the affirmation campaigns. The affirmation campaigns themselves are epics. You do not need to be overly specific. evidence suggests that if you surround yourself with negative people, you will become negative. If you surround yourself with positive people, you become positive. If you surround yourself with food, you will have lots of food to eat. There seems to be this connection of continuity in the impressions that lie around you, either directly or indirectly through consciousness. Therefore, as I've said in my other writings, it might be nice to have a wallpaper rotate of places you want to be, like the one that manifested my trip to my experience in Pago Pago, to other things. And things will manifest. You have to look at what you want and how you want to get it, and work on those aspects to it. You might ask, do I believe the Domain Commander? Well, I do. I mean, Domain Commander's been pretty right about lots of stuff. If you go over the Q&A, over that I've provided, you'll see that the Domain Commander's been pretty spot on so many things. And this mere fact that he told me that I would have a happy and pleasant and really calm and nice, fine event happen in my future, and not to worry about this geopolitical stuff, was straight up. That happened. Now, those of you may think that he was referring to geopolitical concerns, which I was, and the Domain Commander says, stop worrying about that shit. For me, it doesn't matter who the figurehead is. It could be Donald Trump, it could be Harris, or it could be Max Headroom. It's just a shadow puppet. Policies are policies. And whatever the policies are, and eventually they'll trickle down or eventually find their way into my life. But as far as the policies that find their way into my life, the Main Commander says, don't worry about it. Now, when the Domain Commander says something, it's not like humans say, he walked across the street. It's not like that. The Domain Commander provides me with insight that I then communicate. Sometimes the insight is in pictures or imagery or in memories. And in this case, the insight is a little bit more personal. It's how things happened in my life in the past that were set in motion. You see, when you're disembodied, before you come to this earth, you set up a pre-birth world line template set up specifically to keep you boxed in on a certain route. You can alter yourself within that route to a certain degree, but some things are destined to happen. We call that fate, because the entire pre-birth world line is fated. And there are things that's going to happen. We don't really have much change and control over that. What we can do is alter our comfort levels, make sure they're not too discomforting as they occur. And I think all of you are actually doing that, don't you know? So the Domain Commander says, don't worry about all the fear-mongering. The fear-mongering is a control technique that's being used right now for the people in the West to keep them herded, like sheep are being herded by sheepdogs. Fear. Don't do this or else that. Don't do this or else that. It's fear-mongering. That's not for me. It's not. Has no bearing on me. But I argue, of course, that I come from the United States. Why should it have bearing on me? And the Main Commander says, the apparent reality histories say that you came from the United States. Your memories of that place say you came from the United States. But your reality is not those elements. Those elements are remnants or shadows of what had happened to the physical body, but not what will happen to the physical body. Disengage from them. And that seemed pretty straightforward to me. Okay, so this rambling talk. Domain Commander says, for all of you guys, don't worry about World War III and everything. Those are fear-mongering nonsense. That the world is entering new realities. We're watching it, and it's uncomfortable for many people. Don't get too caught up in the discomfort. That's just normal. The worst case scenarios will not happen. As Domain Commander said, there's small bads, small to medium bads at worst, probably small bads, and will not affect me or many of you at all. So don't worry about it. And Domain Commander says I have to be more alert that when Domain Commander is talking to me, that he's talking about me. And I have to be very specific about the subject matter, because I will misinterpret it because of narratives beamed at me through media. And you've got it there straight from my mouth. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm too long in the tooth. Take care. Be kind to dogs and cats. Make your lives something memorable. And remember, guys, I believe in you. I really do. Bye-bye.
Yourself in a miss your time. Sissing out here, it will blow your mind. Come and increase and in all the crime. Which crime me attack? And the gun crime. Waste them from true, what can't be fine. The youth them tired living on the bread line. The money no excuse to rob your blind. Our weapon in the car, the car, the car.
未来的交织是为了谁？我们的心碎。